hi guys, how are you? Okay, this has been on mine, Jason's mind for quite some time. We're definitely in like land of quarantine, and I think we've made like, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 steps beyond this call with our CPA. I'm like, okay, I just need to Facebook Live it. Okay, so we had the phone call with our CPA a few weeks ago, you guys. And it was much like in 2008. We are swimming. In 2008, I'll never forget, you guys were new like business owners, entrepreneurs, right? And in 2008, it was about this time. It was right before Easter. Had a phone call from our CPA at that time. And all I remember, I was sitting with two of my friends, and I was like, that's it. Easter has been canceled, right? Because I needed to go find some deductions. And with the big joke was it was probably 2 weeks ago that we were on the phone with our CPA. Jason and I are like, oh my gosh, we feel like that all over again. Like, oh, Easter's been canceled. We need to go find some deductions. Although this time, you guys, we pretty much have a pretty good system when it comes to our taxes, right? So one of our mentors always said, no matter what, always pay your taxes. And we have a really great system. We have a bookkeeper and we're just on it, okay? Now, I do not know what happened last year, you guys, because then when he's like, hey, are you guys ready to find out the amount that you owe? And he shared with us the amount that we owe. I was like, what? That can't be possible, right? Okay, have you ever felt that way? Like, I mean, I don't know, people probably feel this way every single year, right? Or like, sometimes people are like, what? I'm not getting any money back. I get it, right? Maybe a few of you guys are super excited about taxes, but so this is what I want to come on and say is, you guys, Jason and I, we sat in shock for a little bit, okay? And we have money to pay the taxes. I'm pretty responsible with our money, and it's, I got it, okay? But I didn't want to pay it, you guys. I was like, oh, like, when do I owe this money by, right? So just like sitting here, right? Because I'm like, I don't know that I want to pay it. I mean, I will. Does that make sense? I just have to like sit with it for just a minute, okay? Or 2 weeks. So I sat with it, and then Jason and I have gone into pretty strong like discovery mode. We're like, okay, well, is there another way? I mean, not to not pay our taxes. I'm clear we're going to pay our taxes, right? But like, so we just started like, you know what I mean? Like, if you guys, something happens, right? And then we're all YouTubing, and we're going back to like our old books. So some of our old books from the olden days are like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My 14-and-a-half reach here, my little yellow lab, Millie. And then we were like Tom Wheelwrights, and then we're like Ken McElroy, right? So now we're just like podcasting and trying to find ways to like, what are possible potential ways that we could decrease our taxable income legally, right? So one of the things that I think it was Tom Wheelwright or whoever these guys are, Robert Kiyosaki said, now if your CPA says you just need to have more, you know what I mean? You need to, hey Ashley, how are you, girl? You need to like have more like expenses, like spend more money so you have more expenses. I'm like, well, is that the only way? Like just spend more money? When you spend more money, then you have more deductions? Yes, honey?
Where are my big goggles?
Did you go look in there? That's the goggle shed. That's your best bet. Okay. Okay. So it was so funny because when we ask our CPA, he's like, you just need to have more deductions. I'm like, well, you just don't go spend money, you guys, to have deductions. Does that make sense? I'm like, I'm not gonna just go write checks and spend money just so I can have a deduction. I'm like, there's got to be another way than just be like, oh, let's just go spend money because it's a deduction. Okay. So it's awesome learning. This is my thing, is like, be in discovery no matter what it is. So we are wildly in discovery right now, you guys, because of taxes. Okay, so last night, this is Jason's date night, right? So Og goes to bed, and sometimes, I don't know, Jason's usually in bed by 9 o'clock, quite honestly. But I was like, hey, you want to have a glass of wine and watch some YouTube? So last night, you guys, we were watching YouTube for like, I don't know, an hour and a half. And there was this really awesome YouTube. And he said, the question isn't, is this deductible? So a lot of us get on our hey Estelle, how are you? Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you forever, right? I haven't been in Minnesota forever. But he's like, the question isn't, is this a tax deduction? The better question is, how can this be a tax deduction? And not like everything can be, right? But he's like, don't call your CPA and say, is this a tax deduction? Because for the most part, they're going to always, safely err on the side of safety. And they said, that'll be a red flag. Like, you don't want to do that because that'll be a red flag. And so this Tom Wheelwright last night was like, okay, in the history of 28 years, this has never been a red flag, right? So if your CPA is saying this is a red flag, just like really do your own due diligence. And Jason and I, you guys, were not raised to be entrepreneurs at all, right? There's nothing in us that knows necessarily how to we do now, right? It's been 18 years that we've been entrepreneurs, but we weren't raised this way. So we've had to learn our own health insurance. We had to learn like our own financial planning or find resources, right? But it's been so awesome because we're not relying on like a company. When I used to work at 3M, which was an amazing, amazing, amazing company, you know, like I just found like I would just rely on them, you guys, to do a lot of that for me. And so now I'm like in discovery mode all over again. Not just to spend more money to have a deduction, and not to ask the question, is this a deduction? But to ask better questions like, how is this a deduction? Or how could I possibly have more deductions? Okay? You guys can too, because if you're watching this, you're probably entrepreneurial in some fashion. Okay, have a great Sunday. Do the best you guys can in quarantine, and we are having date night watching YouTube.